Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Saturday. So the fall time can be the most tricky fishing scenarios you'll put yourself in all year, because we don't have one bait that really caters to the fish. We don't really have one type of structure, depth range that they're notorious for getting in. It's a free-for-all. They'll eat any lure, and most days they won't eat any of those lures, and they could literally be anywhere. So 6 inches of water is something you hear a lot about, a foot of water, a foot and a half of water this time of year, because we need something that they're going to push the bait up against and they're going to get up against it. But for the most part, they don't have to do that either. So it's really a tricky time to fish. And yesterday I went out and I've been catching them pretty good all of July, all of August, and I zeroed yesterday. And I'm going to tell you what I did, because I think it's very important to not do this. It's silly, and if you really want to mitigate the risk of going out and not catching anything this time of year, it's important to not get too extreme. So my first extreme was I started on the main river channel. Now, depending on what lake you fish, what type of bait you have, the main lake is typically going to work year round. Now, there are times where the creeks are significantly better than the main lake. So for that, there's usually a pretty big difference when it comes to consistency. There's times a year where the creek's way more consistent, and there's times where the main river is not only going to be more consistent for numbers, but also big fish. So when I think of the post spawn, your boat's got to be sitting in the main river. It's got to be on the main lake somewhere. That's where the fish are headed. In the fall time, the fish are headed to the creek. So if you go out on the main river, you're on the starting spot. So if they've already been traveling for a couple days or a couple weeks, something's already put them in their fall pattern, they're not going to be on the main river anymore. They're leaving there. That's the last place they're going to be. So that is an extreme. So when you start there, you're pretty much at the beginning of the journey. And if their journey has already started, then you're not going to catch anything on the main river, or at least you're not going to catch the size. And I think as we get further along into the year, you just really don't catch the size on the main river. Now, that's kind of a crazy thing to say, because most guys that catch a lot of big fish, especially on the Tennessee River, they don't ever leave the main river. But again, when we're talking about consistency, it's just not the most consistent place to catch fish. If you have a bunch of really good spots, you usually can survive out on the main lake, but that's typically not where the fish are going to be. Resident fish may stay out there, fish that live their whole lives out on the main lake. They're going to be out there so you can survive if you really know a lake well, and you can go out there and hammer them year round on the main lake. But if you don't, and you're on the migration of the fish, that's the starting line. They don't stay on the starting line forever. So when you get to the other extreme, would be the very backs of the pockets, the very backs of the creek. So if you're like, okay, they're not on the main river, I'm just going to bypass everything from the main river to the backs of the creeks, and you head to the backs of the creeks, you went to the other extreme. It's September. They're probably not there yet. The bait's probably not there yet. Nothing is back there yet. Now, it all depends on your lake. The bait might be back there in some of your lakes. The bass may be back there in some of their lakes. But you pretty much skipped the entire portion of the lake that the fish are in. I mean, that's where they're at right now. They're somewhere between the main river and the backs of the creeks, and they're probably not in either of those places. And you just got to follow them. So what you shouldn't do is paint yourself into the corner of, I'm going to go try 10 spots on the main river, or I'm going to go into a creek and I'm going to fish around 4 or 5 spots in the same creek. Every creek is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have some creeks that are on. Maybe they turned over a couple weeks ago and the fish got weird. Now they're feeding heavily because they're out of that fall turnover. Maybe there's no bait in that creek yet. So there's a lot of different scenarios in each creek. But if you go into one creek, you fish down a long stretch, you fish down another long stretch, don't try to make it work in that one creek. That one creek's probably not going on. There's something else that has happened there that is causing the fish not to want to be where you want to catch them, and why they're not going to bite. Could be the lake got sprayed. If you got grass in your lake, they're spraying it. It could turn over, muddy water from rain or wind. all things that can ruin a creek. So if you stop on a creek and you don't get bit pretty quickly, that probably means that creek's not firing that day. You got to go to a different one. You can't just go further and further back into the creek. You have to look elsewhere on your lake. So I think that is very important this time of year. It's a lot of guesswork. It's a lot of searching. It's a lot of time not getting a bite, but you still got to do things correctly. They can be everywhere. They're not going to be just anywhere, but there are places that you're really gambling if you try to fish this time of year. Try that. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.